Missing someone with all your missing someone.
Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So this week I'm going to be doing a balayage retouch on this client. So the first time that she came to me was her last appointment, and we were working on kind of getting her a little bit lighter. She had some really brassy, warm, old highlights, and so I tried to do a really heavy highlight on her to get rid of a lot of the warmth. And as you can see by her regrowth, it's been like about a year since she's came in, and this is just kind of what the color has faded to. Honestly, I was pretty happy with the way that it looked. I would say that the highlights that I did last time doesn't even look super brassy. Everything looks fairly like a pretty tone. It's not anything that's like too yellow or anything, but definitely we got to work on lightening up her roots, and then also kind of brightening up the mids and ends a little bit and get rid of a lot more of that warmth that I left out last time. So I will be going in, and I am using the Blonde Me Sports Cough Lightener on her, and I am starting off with a bowl of 6 volume and 20 volume just to do that first bowl, and then after that I'm going to be using just 20 volume for the rest of the head. I like to mix this lightener 1 to 2, so 1 part powder to 2 parts developer, just because I feel like it gives like a nice thick but not too thick consistency. So I did a weaving foil around the hairline. I normally always do that because that is going to be part of her money piece when she brings her hair forward. So I never like to miss the hairline. Even sometimes when I do like a partial highlight or a partial balayage, I always maybe will do like 1 foil there or something there so that it's not totally dark, because I just don't like when the client brings their hair forward in front of their shoulders and that part is dark. So I always like to make sure that I do something there to kind of brighten it up, or just to like break up the dark essentially. So as I'm going through, I am going to be slicing most of the head. And for those of you guys who are new to my channel, who have never seen any of my other videos, the reason why I like to do slicing is because I feel like slicing, you get more impact with it. And then 2, I feel like it's just a lot easier to touch up the hair. Like when I do the same time of sectioning pattern for a lot of my clients and I go through and slice it, it's really easy for me to pick out a slice and what needs to be lightened versus what I lightened last time. So as I'm going through, even though it's been like about a year since I've seen her, it's really easy for me to see where I sliced her last time because it's a slice. Versus if I were to do like a really chunky or thick weave, I might be taking a little bit more extra time searching for that weave opposed to searching for a slice. So I do it based off of time, and just like I just feel like it's a little bit more efficient doing it that way because you're able to color a lot more hair, get through the hair, and get her a little bit lighter. But of course, if a client wanted to be more dimensional and have something very subtle, then I would opt in to do more of a weaving pattern. But since her goal is essentially to get a little bit lighter, I am just going to be going in, doing my slicing pattern, and actively trying to pick out the pieces that have the longest root. So essentially, I am trying to see the hairs that I didn't really lighten last time. And that's going to help get rid of a lot of the warmth that she had with her previous stylist before me. And we're going to get her super light so that it fades out really pretty. And you can even tell, even though I haven't seen her in like about a year, I felt like her hair doesn't look like it even really needs a toner. It still looks really pretty on the mids and ends. Minus the regrowth and everything, but I was really happy with the way that her hair lifted. And I feel like when I do slices and keep my slices nice and see-through and thin, I'm able to also get a really clean and even lift, especially on hair that is a level like 2 or 3, like my client here. And I feel like it's really key when you're doing lighter colors, like for say, I am lightening her up and she wants to be as like blonde as possible. But I would say if your client wants to be anywhere between like neutral and like more of a natural tone color, nothing that's like too warm, I always like to lift my clients at least past like a level 7, because at a level 7, what lives there? It's orange. And when the toner fades, if like let's say you lift your client to a level 7 and then 6 to 8 weeks later their toner fades, then what they're left with is just a lot of warmth, a lot of orange. And I find that even though a client wants to technically be like an ashy brown or anything, you gotta lift them lighter than a level 7, like past that like orangey stage, so that at least like when the toner fades out, it lasts and it looks really pretty and doesn't make the client feel too brassy. So she wants to be super light, so I'm gonna try and lift her as like blonde as possible. But just generally for all of my clients, especially the girlies who have like level 2 to like level 4 and 5 natural, I always try to lift them past like a level 8 or like at a level 8. Like ideal goal is about a level 8 or 9 if we're doing like an ash brown. And then if we're doing like blondes, obviously I want to try and lift them as light as possible. So I'll go and try and shoot for that level 9 and 10. And I find that doing it that way and then always like dropping the toner down and adding and depositing the more natural, neutral tones or even the ash tones makes the toner last longer and also makes the hair and the fade look a lot prettier and just complements the skin tone a lot better, because not a lot of people can totally rock that brassy look. I feel like it doesn't suit everybody, and usually if a client is naturally like a level 2 or 3, it most of the time doesn't look that complementing against their skin tone. So I am continuing my slicing pattern all the way up from that center section to the hairline here. And again, I'm making sure that my slices are nice and see-through, and I am custom cutting my foils so that they don't have any bends or folds in the area that has the lightener placed. So now I'm going in and doing her money piece. So since she wants to be as blonde as possible, I'm going to be doing 3 like micro baby slices back to back to create a nice bold money piece. I feel like doing a very micro slice, you can see it's very see-through, very thin. It's going to ensure a really nice, beautiful lift, but also ensure that this money piece isn't going to be too chunky against the rest of the color. I opted to do 3 slices just because she has so much dark root. Now, if her root was a little bit shorter, then I might do like 2 slices and then a weave. But because her root is just so long, I chose to just do 3 slices back to back. And then I'm going to connect that with the back by doing a slice, but leaving some negative space in between the foils. And before I even get to the money piece part, regardless if I've been doing a client for a really long time or not, I always make sure that I ask them if they even want that front piece lighter, because, you know, trends change. And honestly, I feel like the money piece where it's like super chunky, super bold is kind of going a little bit out of style right now. I feel like lately a lot of my clients have been wanting something more natural and not too solid in the front. So I always ask just to make sure, because I feel like a money piece can make or break whether or not your client is in love with their hair, because it's literally right in front of their face and it frames the whole color. So I always like to double make sure that my client is on the same page as me as far as how bold we do their money piece. And if a client doesn't know, it's really easy to just pop up a picture and show them what you feel would be good, or you can make recommendations. Like for me, if a client is going for more of a blonde look, then I say yes, go for the money piece if you are interested in it. But if a client is wanting to be more dimensional, more brunette, or just like lived in, and also looking for something that is more lower maintenance, then I always say do a very soft money piece. And if I were doing a very soft money piece, I would just weave it. I wouldn't even slice any of it. It might just be like a few weaves and then continue the regular slicing pattern. But it's all customizable, and it's something that I always make sure that I talk to my clients before I even get to that part, and I never want to assume, because I've learned my lesson in the past where like I don't ask and I just assume, even if a client's been with me for a while. And that's one thing that is something that a client will always pick out, and what matters to them really the most, because it frames the whole color essentially. So I'm connecting that front and that back. I did a weave above the ear, and I always like to weave right there, even though everything is pretty much slices, just because I don't want any like solid chunky lines at the hairline ever, unless it's like the money piece. So I always weave around the hairline, like the nape and the ear, and then from then on I'm going to continue my slicing pattern. So you can see I am taking thin slices and picking out any previous highlights from them to make sure that I don't overlap. And then what this is essentially going to do, as I'm picking out the pieces that have the longest root, is you can imagine that it's starting to kind of create some sort of graduation to where the root is darker, and slowly as you get to the mids and ends, there's more highlights. And so as I drag down my placement all the way to the ends and actively picking out the pieces that have those dark pieces to the ends, it's essentially going to make my ends look and appear more solid and more diffuse as it goes towards the top. And this is just kind of what I love to do on all of my clients, to make them feel and look more natural as possible for any type of color placement. Also, when I'm doing the sides here, I'm not too worried about leaving my slices or putting them too like super close together. Sometimes I'll leave a little bit extra negative space in between compared to like that top part where she parts her hair, just because this is pretty much underneath wherever she parts her hair, so she's not going to really see it no matter how or which way she flips her hair. So here you can leave a little bit more negative space in between your sections, but definitely if this was going to be on the top wherever she parts her hair, and in those areas, I would definitely leave those slices a little bit closer together. But again, since this is the side and pretty much below the occipital, I am leaving a little bit more negative space than I would on the very top of her head. Okay, so now we are going in with some toner, and I am using a toner for her root area. Her root area, I am using some liquid demi toners, and I like to use something that is going to kind of blend out the lines, because again, we did do some slices, so I want to make sure that those lines at the root are nice and blended and kind of diffused. So I am using a level 6 natural. Now the level 6 natural that I'm using is a little bit more ashier, or is on the ashier side, so that's why I chose that. And then once I apply the root area everywhere, I'm going to be going in with the lighter toner, and for her lighter toner we're just going to be using a level 9 violet just to kind of brighten it up, and we apply it to the mids and brush as we go, and this is going to help tone out a lot of that warmth in her hair. So I mean, we were able to pretty much lift her to about a level 9 and 10, so this toner is going to blend and tone out all of the yellow in her hair, as well as make it to a beautiful pretty blonde tone. Alrighty guys, so here is the finished look. I loved the way that the colors blended so well. The shadow root was perfect for this color, and this toner is just going to fade out into a really pretty blonde, very similar to how she came in previously, except this time it's going to fade out a little bit better because we were able to get even more of the warmth out from her mids and ends. And then you can also see that placement on that money piece where I did the 3 like micro slices. It really doesn't look too bold against the rest of the color because again we did a very micro slice, but it does give that effect that it is lighter in the front. Alrighty guys, that is it for this week's episode. Thank you guys so much for watching and tuning in, and as always, I will talk to you guys next week.